Good evening, everybody. I'm not a big city boy, though I was born in the dusty town of Kanpur. I grew up in Kolkata and then worked in Mumbai and in various big cities. But my heart's never been there. It's been always in the wilderness, always among people who can understand me better and who I can understand better. Before I begin this session, which is called 3 Moments That Changed My Life, I'd like you all to participate in a small incantation with me. And please don't be embarrassed by shouting it out loud, but be a part of it. Now what I'm going to ask you to do is to recite the refrain of a chant. Now this is an old Bhil chant, Bhil tribal chant. When you cleanse a space before a performance, before prayers, or before a sacred argument where people, 2 Baduas or 2 shamans are having an argument, the space is clear, the space is purified, and the space is made ready, and that's what we're going to do now. So please join me with gusto.
Do we have to stand?
Yeah?
Do we have to stand?
No. I'll just see. No? If everyone's looking sleepy, I'll ask you to stand. But see, basically what happens in some communities when they begin anything which is auspicious, they invoke and evoke all the powers that are there in the forests, and they call them by the names of various deities, because all the forest deities are female. There are very few male deities. Yeah? So okay, now what you have to do is say this. Follow me, and then I'll keep pointing to you and you join me. Dance, 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 dance. That means dance, dance, you'll have to say it thrice in rhythm. Okay? Now tell me quickly. Yeah.
Dance, dance.
1 minute. Wait. 1, 2, 3. Dance, 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 dance. Okay, got it? You have to just do it thrice. Yeah? Okay, here goes. Hey, 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 hey. White flowers, green lines, bells on dancing feet. Kalaka Mata from Pavandar, incense smoke in her hair. Dance, 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 dance. Stand up. Stand up, please. Red flowers, green lines, bells on dancing feet. Sitala Mata from Galia, silver comb in her hair. Dance, 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 dance. Yellow flowers, green lines, bells on dancing feet. Godari Mata from Godaran, ribbons in her hair. Dance, 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 dance. Lamps lit at rays they begin, dancing in the courtyard and in the evening air. Dance, 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 dance. Kalaka Mata.
Dance, dance.
1 minute, get it proper. Kalaka Mata.
Dance, dance.
Wait, now you only twice, just listen. Kalaka Mata.
Dance,
Dance. Godari Mata. Dance, dance. Chitila Mata.
Dance, dance.
Patadi Mata.
Dance, dance. Dance, 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 dance.
Thank you. Please sit. Okay, now you'll wonder what are these 3 moments that changed my life. They were 3 amazing moments. I didn't know it then, but I knew it later. When I was very young, in my early 20s, I became increasingly concerned by the fact that I had 4 nationalities in my veins: Irish, Spanish, English, and Indian, with all my grandparents. And I began to wonder, who am I? More and more, asking myself, who am I? And in this whole process of questioning, I decided to leave everything I was doing at that time. I was a journalist. I was writing plays, performing in plays. I was writing poetry, and everything I touched seemed to burn and be alive. And I said, there's something wrong. Everything is too good. Everything works too much. What is it? It's got to do with who I am, but I don't even know who I am. So I set out on a journey of self-discovery. And this journey of self-discovery was crazy when it started. I went to Howrah station and I said, can I have a ticket for Mathura? I bought a ticket to Mathura. Because at one stage in my life, I had lived in Mathura for 2 years. And it was a memorable time. So I said, I'm going to begin from Mathura. Everyone in my family thought I was insane. What's he going to Mathura for? He can't be religious. It's not possible. He's incapable of being religious. My mother was in tears. My father was in a huff. My brothers and sisters just threw their hands up. One fellow has a habit of hitting his forehead when he's exasperated, so he did that. And I set out with a backpack, and I traveled for 2 years on foot, in bullock carts, to so-called unlearn everything I had learned. And one night, I found myself in the pine forest of Kumaon, beyond Raniket. There was nowhere to sleep that night, and I was walking along, and I said, no, what am I doing here? I mean, I haven't really chosen to be exactly here at this time, so what is driving me? And all my baggage that I had ever carried with me all came back, and it was virtually staring at me in the face. All my sense of incompleteness, all my sense of non-belonging, all the poetry I had written, the drawings I had done, the plays I had written suddenly seemed to lack any basis. And as I walked along, I looked up. It was absolutely dark. Absolutely dark. Absolutely everywhere. I looked, there was not even a small friendly light from a homestead anywhere. And there's a sense of being alone. And I had walked the whole day before and the whole night in absolute silence, talking to no one. And by nature I'm a very talkative fellow. And I can't stop once I start. So there I was, and I said, what if I speak what it will sound like? And I really got afraid that what I would hear would be a voice I didn't like. And this is true, what I'm telling you. Early in the morning, when I was really exhausted, I found a break in the pine forest and I walked out. Just a small break, and I walked out. And there I saw the most moving and spectacular sight of my life. It was on the slope of the hill, against a very grey sky which was slowly lighting up with streaks of orange. It was an old apple tree. Really old, and you can spot an apple tree from a mile. If you've got good eyesight, that is. So I walked up and I sat down under the branches. It is all scattered branches, 1 or 2 shriveled fruit on it. And I slept for a while. When I got up and said, what am I doing here sitting in the middle of nowhere, with this grey sky above me which is lighting up into morning? What is it? And I stepped back, a little distance away, and I looked at the tree. And the most spectacular thing began to happen. The morning sun hit its leaves, and this otherwise old, gnarled, broken, almost forgotten creature of nature came alive. The light hit its leaves and it began to shiver virtually in the cold light. And there was a glow. Naturally, in the mountains, that's what happens when light hits solid surfaces. And the first thought that struck me, out of all that mass of baggage I was carrying, the first thought that struck me was the wonder that this image created. Of age, it was bent, it was gnarled. How many seasons it would have seen, how many years it would have seen, how much it would have witnessed, it would have suffered. How much? I walked away from that apple tree, something that had turned in me. Something very, very, very significant that had turned in me. And that is the respect for life that has been here longer than me, whether it is human beings or animals or plants or nature, and the sense of smallness. And it's amazing that for years after that, I can look back and I can say, I can say that my finest gurus, all the people who have guided me, truly guided me, were people who were old, who had experienced life, who had seen life. They may not have been to university. This is Surat Nath. Surat Nath is a Murali player. He's no more. He died in a cold winter 4 years ago in Kutch, in the great run of Kutch.
What is a Murali?
The Murali is the instrument that you play, that people from the Vagdi community play, even snake charmers would play. But he had mastered the Murali in seven different styles. And he, later on you will see his son, who you see me shaking hands with his son when I went to visit the community later. Now, so this is Surat Nath, and what I got from Surat Nath was his complete sense of dedication to his craft, no matter what happened. And the Vagdi community lived in the open. They live with just a few sticks and a plastic sheet over it, and that's their home. And the community moves. It's a nomadic music community. Yeah. Now this is Badhu or Budhia. He is the last of the great Bhilala bards, singers and composers. He was blind since he was 12 years old, and yet he lived all alone with some neighborly help. And he'd come down every morning from this hill in which he was. I couldn't see anything. He'd come down onto the road and he'd travel from village to village playing his tinkalu, which is like an ektara of a kind, but used with a bow. And he would play that, compose his own songs. In fact, I brought him to Mumbai and he played. I took him to Pune, I took him to other places for people to listen to a truly original master of a traditional instrument, stringed instrument. So from him, I got not just his dedication to his art, but something much more than that. His reverence for human beings around him. No matter what the age is, he never once asked me, "Bhai, how old are you? Are you an old man or are you a young man?" He never ever asked. All he did was say, "Can I touch your face?" I'm bereft because yet another guru has passed away. He's no more, and I miss him very much because he was my guide. And for me, he was like that apple tree. Hard and strong and gnarled and experienced. This is a senior leader of the Narikuravar gypsies. Now you know the Narikuravar gypsies are people who travel from place to place, and in the old days they were carriers of trade. They were original hunter-gatherers. Now I met him, outside Chennai, in a small grove outside Chennai, and somebody told me, "Oh, there's some wild gypsies living there, some Tamilian friends of mine, and we don't understand their language." And what these guys were speaking were actually Hindi. Yeah, and it just shows how different we are from one another. So now I was with Dada for some time, I was with them for some time in this absolute idyllic settlement. It was a complete mess. It was reeking of, some animal had been shot and his skin was hanging up. Somebody was making a gun in another corner under a tree. And all of these amazing things were happening, and yet there was a rhythm of life. And that rhythm of life, for me, was a great inspiration. This is Janu Kaka. He just passed away. So you see, I'm losing all my gurus, and finally I won't have any more. And I have to pass wisdom on to somebody else. That, can we go back to that please? Yeah, now Janu Kaka is from the Kunbi community, and he is in the Downs of South Gujarat, and he was a healer when he was alive, and he could be able to tell you what was wrong with you just by hugging you, just by holding your hand, just by listening to you talk. For me, at a very important point in the 90s, he was my guide. We started as my guide and we became very good friends. Yeah. So, that was the first, as I said, turning point. That first decisive moment of my life was the encounter with the apple tree. And that realization in me that, that I shouldn't be so obsessed or preoccupied with myself. And that I should now look out and look at those who've been here long before I am here and respect that experience, respect that wisdom. And that, I think, has affected a lot of the way I have approached traditional communities, gone into communities, collected stories, done translations. The next decisive moment in my life, the next important turning point in my life was again somewhere in the mountains, in a place called Kathgodam, and I was a young man, and it was the tail end of my on the run journey, and I was at the Kathgodam bus station with no money in my pocket, and I had to get to Delhi. So I said, okay, now what am I going to do? I can't walk, and it didn't look like anybody was wanting to give me a lift. And I'm hopeless at trying to catch a lift, like offer a thumb or talk to them or give explanation, because nobody could understand what the hell I was doing there in the middle of nowhere, with no money in my pocket. And then this guy came up to me, and he just stood over there. He's got a nice bag, he said. So I said, yeah, it's canvas, I told him. He said, yeah, it's very nice, it's got a strap and it's got a buckle, and where are you going, he said. In the same breath, much older than me, where are you going? So I said, I'm going to Delhi. This is the wrong place you're standing, the buses don't go from here to Delhi. So I said, well, actually, no, what's the problem? He said, you have a problem. I said, no, why are you worried about my problem? And he said, you obviously don't have any money, come home. So no one had ever told me that, and ever come out and said, what a lovely bag, and just a conversation piece, and then find out that I had no money. In a jiffy, he understood the situation. Pyara Singh, his name was, he said, come home. And I was so baffled by this absolute acceptance of a stranger. I said, okay, come along, I'll come home. And I went home, and his beautiful little wife made me food, and then Pyara Singh said, oh, do you know what I do? So I said, no. He said, do you eat petha? So I said, yes, I eat petha. I like petha. He said, well, actually, I grow and I sell petha ka kaddu. It's the ash pumpkin or the ash melon. It's a grey green. And when it loses its fur, it's ready to eat. So he said, that's what I do. Come on, I'll show you my pumpkin stockyard. So it was such a new experience. I hadn't eaten food the whole day, and a stranger picks me up virtually, takes me home and tells me, I'll show you my pumpkins. So I said, okay, let's have patience. So I sat down, and he talked about his ash melon. This is absolutely amazing. I've never heard anybody talk with such passion about a vegetable. And then he said, do you know that the petha kaddu is not only kaddu meant to make petha from, it's also medicinal. And then he began into a whole string of stories about, who discovered the pumpkin, and how his grandfather had told him stories about the pumpkin Rani, and where she went around in the night throwing pumpkin seeds in the air, and how there were pumpkins growing in the air in his village. And it was absolutely amazing stories, and I sat and I listened at least for about an hour till his wife came and said, no, poor fellow, he must be so hungry. Look at his face, his cheeks are sunken. And and I started getting a little worried about, all of this intrusion in my privacy. But they got me there, and for 1 week, I lived with them. I forgot about Delhi for 1 week. I lived with them, they fed me. I helped him with his accounts, I helped him carrying his kaddu from this place and that place. I went to the market with him and he told me, I have no children, please stay. I told him, listen, actually I'm going on this journey. He's saying, what is this journey about? What journey? Where are you going? You're going to another country. I said, no. He said, then what journey is this? I don't understand, he said. You have to be going somewhere in a journey. I said, I'm going to Delhi, but why Delhi? And he couldn't understand my restlessness. But the big thing I learned from him was the immense kindness of strangers. And everywhere I went among traditional and indigenous peoples after that, I never ever forgot him. I remember him today. Unfortunately, I don't have a photograph of him because he didn't carry a camera that time. But I'll show you all the strangers, people who began as strangers and then became friends. Could we see the first one? This is a family of Dhangars outside Satara town, and they are on the hillside, and the Dhangars, are nomadic people. And so I went along and I was writing about the Dhangars. I was very, very interested in the traditional pasture lands and routes that the Dhangars take. The Dhangars don't have permanent settlements. They have temporary settlements from where they take their goats and their sheep to different places. So they have this huge route across Western India where they would stop in farms, stop in gardens, make a deal with the owner of the land and leave their crops to eat from the land and to crap on the land and enrich the soil, be given rice and be given various other goodies, and they'd move on. So the Dhangars have this tremendous history of the nomadic spirit. And those young fellows you just saw just now were people, all brothers, and they lost one of them in a lightning strike in the rain. Hit by lightning in the rain. So none of the other brothers, when it's raining, go out now. We became very, very good friends. I met them when I was traveling. These are a whole lot of Bhilala kids. Somebody told them, that guy told them, his name is Umesh Bhai. He told them that, Sarji is the Masterji. So all these children going home from school kept running to me, sir, kitab dekho, sir, and they all came with their books. And the families they came from, every year I would go back to those families. And for me, they were all strangers, and they accepted me as a stranger without any question. Yeah. This is a potter from Bhidgate, and he's a young man who I met totally by chance when I was looking for a maker of glass beads in Bhuj. And I was just looking for, I believe there was an old tradition of glass beads in Bhuj. So I was looking around and I came across this potter, and he is Babu, his name was, that was his nickname. And he makes the borindo. Now borindo is like an orkarina, small one, and it is from the old tradition of the Mohenjo-daro and Harappa ruins. The same design, he still makes the borindo. He works with children, he talks to them about the tradition of that ancient wind instrument. We became very, very good friends, met by accident, and we still accept each other, though we don't know each other's stories. Yeah. These are the little boys who adopted me when I was across the Gira river in the Dams, and I could hear some music and I didn't know where it was coming from, and these two guys were the ones who showed me where the music had come from. So I said, money? No, I told them. They said, shake hands. And every time I passed that way, that's what we would do. Yes. Now these are people who had no business to be helping me in any way. And these are all strangers. I accepted them, they accepted me. Now, this guy is Baiju Bhai. Baiju Bhai is a traditional thali player. He plays on the thali instrument, where you sit down and the thali is put on your lap and a little bit of beeswax is there. A stick from the cannabis plant is there, and he plays on the plant in a way where it creates a hum almost like a tanpura. And he recites the great exploits of the Devi of the forests. And this was Rajan, the fellow who would always drive me around. He's also from the Kunbi community, and there are the others. Now all of them decided that they wanted to educate me about the local Devis and the local stories. So there I sat, here's Baiju Bhai again, and his friend is like a accompanist. So these people, I learned in my travel that if you really want to know of a place, you don't go to a district gazetteer. You go to people, ordinary people. You listen to their stories, you listen to their hopes, you listen to their sorrows, you listen to their dreams. This is Surat Nath I told you about, and this was Surat Nath's son. And unfortunately, this was our last meeting. I told you about Surat Nath earlier. This was our last meeting, and if you can see this is Surat Nath's home. This bamboo piece and this plastic, and the bunch of leaves over a bed. I used to call him Chaku Bhai. He's passed away also. He's from the Lohar community, and he had a lot of stories to tell me. And he met me on the road. He said, "Why are you going that way? That's the Shamshan Ghat is that way." I said, "So what if I'm walking?" No, you come here, sit down, have a cup of tea. And we became friends. Yeah. There is Baiju Bhai playing the thali. And this is Musa Ghulam Jat, who I met when he was taking his buffaloes for a graze. And there's his friend. And I didn't know he was Kutch's most prominent Jodia power player. I didn't know that. I met him by accident, and I met him as a herder of buffaloes. And that's it. He also is no more. I'm sorry I'm sounding so grim, but a great tradition is passing away and keeps passing away. And these are part of the bedrock of our collective identities, no matter where you come from in this country. We are all the inheritors of this. The last moment, the last decisive moment of my life, turning point of my life, happened when I went to Jhabua, long time back. I went in the 80s. And I was asked to create a community education campaign for people, for the tribal community of Bhil and Bhilala. But I wanted to do it through their stories and their music. So I went around the place, very industrialist, with an old-fashioned recorder, with a little mic on it, and I was going along recording stories about, it was about water, and the purity of water, and the importance of avoiding waterborne diseases. So I wanted to find out, what do people think about water? What's pure water to a person in Ali Rajpur when there's almost no rain? What's the concept of water coming from the depths of the earth? What is it, traditionally? So I went around and I was told by a local school teacher, listen, the best way you can find out these stories or these songs, you go to a Badua. Now the Badua is the shaman. Now they are the repository of old songs, old hymns, old stories. So I went around and I picked up one story, which was persistent as it went along. Then I said, how do I know if this is the story that will be acceptable? So the school teacher said, sir, I'll take it to Bhuna Baba. Now he's a very weird fellow, and if he sees me, he'll probably have his village thrash me. Because he'll say, I am a Hindu and I am coming to convert his people. So I can't come into the village, you better go. So it was late afternoon and I turned up in the village and there was Bhuna Baba. I was told where he was sitting on his khatiya. He was this big, virtually this big. Yeah? And he was just covered in beads as one would imagine a shaman would be. And he sat down there, he said, what do you want? So, very aggressively, what do you want? He said. So I said, actually, I've come with a story. What story? So I said, listen, I've got the story how land was created. Okay, tell me, you got this, where did you get it from? It was very intimidating and it was his tactic. So he said, tell me, come on, where did you get it from? I said, no, I got it from that Badu. That Badu is an idiot, he creates stories. So I said, okay, then what's the real story? Okay, sit down, he said. Don't move, you sit right over there and you look at me in the eye. Even if I look there, you have to look there also. So I said, okay. It was quite amazing how he had kind of caught hold of me by the throat and he just held me over there. And that's what shamans do. Even the Kurumba shaman of the Nilgiris, he'll do the same thing. This thing, you look me in the eye, if you don't, you're not looking at, you're not listening to me, you're not connecting. So there I sat and I said, okay. So he said, in the beginning, there was only water. And water as far as the eye could see. There was no such thing as land. Until a Jugunu Mata, curious creature that she is, she came in search of land. And then he began to tell the story about how the Jugunu Mata couldn't find land and human beings were happy to float on lily pads and there were homes on floating on water, an imaginative thing, but there was no land. And how this Jugnu Mata turned herself into 4 Jugnu Matas and finally found land. Okay, it's a very long story, I won't bore you with it. But the interesting thing is, he had hardly started his story when 4 guys came in, marching into his compound. Desolate compound, one pumpkin growing there, some bindi growing there, some cotton growing here. And he said, yes, and there were 4 guys with bows and arrows. Yeah? And they said, we're looking for Mangalia. Where's Mangalia? Calm down, sit. No, we're not going to sit and you tell us to look you in the eye. No, we're going to stand over here. Where's Mangalia? He's gone this way. All these rascals go through your land and you protect them. Where is it? So he said, who did you say? He said, Mangalia. Mangalia went this way. Didn't he go this way, sir? So I said, yeah, he went this way. Didn't he go past that tree and down into the valley? I said, yeah, he went past the tree and down. That other chap asked me, what was he dressed in? I said, he had a gamcha on. That's just what Mangalia. I took a try. And the Bhuna Baba was, kind of feeling very pleased. They went rushing off. And then he told me, that's the first truth. And he continued his story about the poor Jugnu Mata and her friends looking for water. Suddenly, 3 more guys turn up. 3 guys. They came with spears and one fellow with a bow and arrow. And he said, "Wo kahan gaye wo?" So he looked at me. Come. अरे वो मंगलिया के पीछे जो पड़े हैं ना, कहाँ गए वो? अरे जो मंगलिया के पीछे पड़े, अरे वो तो वहाँ गए। कहाँ? अरे वो रास्ते के ऊपर में गए। कहाँ गए उस रास्ते के? अरे वो जो है ना वो गन्ने छोटा सा गन्ने के खेत है वहीं पे उसके पीछे गए। सच बोल रहे हैं कि झूठ बोल रहे हैं? ऐसे साहब बाबा झूठ बोलते हैं क्या? नहीं ये तो संत है। बकवास, they told him, and they went rushing off in that direction. Told me that's the second truth. Yeah. And he said it's not over. Wait, let me finish the story. There'll be one more truth is coming just now. Came 2 cops on motorbikes. They had a shotgun on their shoulders. बाबूआ, बोला बाबा क्या हाल है बेटे? बोला तो ठीक है साहब। अरे वो सब लौंडे कहाँ गए? वहाँ गए। And he sent them in the 3rd direction on the road to Baroda. And then he told me, the smile on his face, that's the 3rd truth. Now what I learned, I think, from Bhuna Baba and later from his son, I put lovely pictures of his son Natu. What I learned from him was, listen, everything you encounter, every truth you encounter is relative to other truths. And if you sit down and you start asking if this is true, that's the only way you will understand a story, a folk tale, a myth, a legend, stories of gods, heroes, anything. That's the only way, only way. Could we show them something of this is Natu, Bhuna Baba's son, and he took over as the Badua of the village. And yes, this is him again. What a beautiful face he had. He had very large piercing eyes, just like his father. Very, very large piercing eyes. This is him in his own house. And you know these leaves here? These are the leaves of that is used for the bidi making. Those are the leaves. Yeah, tendu. Now this is a Pithora painting. And this is the last painting that Natu blessed before he died. And this painting is the Pithora, is a painting which is painted on the walls of homes on an auspicious occasion. And all of these are the various deities and various aspects of the Bhilala's life. And this guy with lovely blue pants and a white shirt and blue pants and a green shirt are all manifestations of Pithora Baba. And Pithora Baba is not a deity, he is just a force that brings all the goodness here. He even brings the money lender. This is the money lender. Even the money lender is very much a part of those who are blessed. And this, I think, taught me that, you know, unless you accept difference, there you've got an ajgar over here. There. So unless you accept difference, unless you accept variety, here is a leopard shaking the trunk of an elephant. Unless you accept variety, you will not truly relish the life you live. And that is what I've learned from all my tribal communities, everywhere I've gone. All traditional communities. And I've tried to be able to carry this message of them to people in the world outside. All of you and other people, to understand that they are not backward, they are not savages, they have a great old tradition of folklore, of mythology and of worship. Yes. We go forward. Yeah, I think we close this and take the last one. Now, I tried, as you will see, I tried, as Samira says, I worked with children, part of the workshops we did, summer workshops, and I felt that the way to connect children with that greater reality of the Indian subcontinent, the traditional reality, was not through anything but the real material objects. So I have a passion for collecting stones wherever I go, and all the stones have stories. So I used to bring the stones.
You can see it.
Yeah? Yeah. Oh wow, come here. Stand up at least, let's see your face. Yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah. So, and to be able to give the stones life, so that I am able then to complete a circle. You begin by discoveries of the first moment, the second moment and the third moment, and then I believe there is a whole process of transformation, and you have to give it back to life, to people, mainly children. Give them back the essential wonder of living, the magic of so-called inanimate objects, and the wonder of stories and art. This is that long sheet thing, when you came in and you were wondering what we were doing so quietly for 4 hours. Yeah. And this is actually a stone, and this little boy has built this house where he's kept the stone where the stone lives. So for everybody, another reality was given to the objects that I had collected. And for me, that is ultimate fulfillment. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So, he's told the story beautifully, right? He left so many gaps that I'm assuming we have many questions to ask. So, we have time if you'd like to ask him any questions.
So how is folklore a connection to the truth?
How is folklore connected to
The truth.
the truth?
Yeah.
See, I'll tell you.
That's what you found, right?
Sorry?
That's what you found.
That's what I found. The folklore is not directly connected with truth. There's stories everywhere, which we say is folklore. That's people's law, people's memory, people's stories.
Okay.
Yeah? It is their truth. Okay?
Is there one truth, sir?
No. There are many truths. That's what I told you. That that he says one person came, he's saying that's one truth, it's second truth, it's third truth. He said there's so many truths. So what I learned from Bhuna Baba, he said there's so many truths in life. You can never say I am right and you are wrong.
Okay.
So the point I was making is you have to be inclusive. That's what I've learned. Yes?
Where's Bhuna Baba from? Which area?
Bhuna Baba was from western Madhya Pradesh, a place called Ali Rajpur. It's on the border of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. So the Bhilala community speaks a very peculiar mixture of Bhili, which is a dialect, a little bit of Gujarati and of Rajasthani, because the Bhils have an old connection with Rajasthan. So all the way from South Rajasthan, all the way down to South Gujarat and right along western Madhya Pradesh is the Bhil lands. And wherever they've gone, they've adapted either language or whatever.
So which language did you speak to them?
Well, I learned Bhili. But Bhili is a language which you just have to know the object words and the active words and the descriptive words, that's it. And you can only do it in bits. You'll never do it with the fluency that they've managed to do it. But they are very, very humorous people. They can make a joke out of you like that. One night, where I didn't know anything about Bhili first, and I heard some beautiful drum music and flute music. I took the jeep to the top of a hill, and I stood over there on the hill. I put on the recorder, great drama. And suddenly the boys and girls, 15, 16-year-olds, where their hormones flying in different directions, all of them came up, and they said, "What are you doing?" So the driver who knew Bhili said, "Well, sir is recording, and he thinks you're a great culture," and all of this nonsense. And they said, "Okay, we'll make a song for him." He said, "Record it, put on that machine." They said, this strong young woman told me, come on, she pushed me, "Put on that machine, we're going to sing a song, especially for you, to honor you." She told me in Hindi. I said, "Okay, put on the machine." I felt damn pleased, here I am, all of these young women and all of these people are singing a song to me. So they sang with gusto and they danced around me and they went away. The driver was embarrassed. I told him, "Okay, now you come back to the rest house and you translate this." "No, I'm not translating." Then that good old teacher I caught and I brought him. He said, "No, sir, I'll lose my religion." I said, "What will you lose your religion?" In fact, what they had said, "Who is this idiot who's come here? Yeah, take off all his clothes. Right now, take off all his clothes. Take his machine and stamp on it and smash it and break it and throw it away. Make him crawl back to his city. And any one of us can sit on his back and hit him on, sorry for the language, hit him on the bum, slap, 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 and he will go back to the city with us." And there I was thinking that they had, really praising me. So that is the level of the humor when it's crass, and they have very refined humor too. Sorry, anybody else? Have I offended anyone? No. Yes, you had a question.
How many such languages have you learned?
How many? Actually, dialects I've learned 22. But I have to go back there for me to be able to talk it again. You understand what I mean? It's not like a mainstream language. I'm absolutely hopeless at a mainstream language. But if I go back to Ali Rajpur, I could be able to speak Bhili and Bhilali within a week, because it's a familiarity of the dialect as it falls in the ear.
Line here and there, Bhili. When you speak of Bhili, one line or something like that, so that we hear.
Okay, I just one line only. That is, you know that that the chant I did there. The rhythm is different in them. No sense to this. Listen. So they make all these sounds, and actually the words are few when they're singing. But it's an EO to all the words. If you say a titli, it becomes a titlio. You know, so there's an inflection and there's an addition to every word or language. But what has happened in most of these places today, even in places like the Nilgiris, where you'd have the Irulas. The Irulas are, again, there are 22 clans of Irulas, hunting and gathering. And they all speak different dialects. But today, it is Tamil that has reigned supreme. So now most of them talk Tamil and are ashamed to talk the Irula dialect, or whichever Irula clan they are from.
Education? Is that because of going to school?
Sorry?
Why is that? Why is it shame? Why is it? I understand.
I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the Irulas who were hunting and gathering were not on the slopes of the Nilgiris. They were much lower down in Mettupalayam and the other low-lying areas. And due to cultivation and various reasons, they were pushed up the slopes. So they were disinherited, pushed out of their traditional lands. So now when they're pushed out of their traditional lands, you land up in areas where where you can't do anything. There's very little hunting left, and the only occupation around is tea and coffee plantations. So in order to get jobs there, you learn Tamil. You learn Tamil in order to get a Tamil education. Nothing wrong with it. That's the way of time and the process of history.
Tamil now?
Sorry?
Can you speak Tamil?
No. I can only count in Tamil. Wonder and the moon and all. Yeah. And
Difficult.
But why is there shame? I mean,
no, it's because I am educated. I speak Tamil. I don't speak. In fact, there was a school where they were mainly Irula children coming, and I was a consultant there, and they said, okay, can you tell us how we can improve the recreational activities? So I started listening to the nursery rhymes they were teaching them, and it was Johnny, Johnny, yes papa, eating sugar, no papa. So I said, okay, you don't want to use Tamil now, you want to use English, but why do you want to use this? Why can't you use Irula nursery rhymes? You won't believe this, we went back to a place called Chemanarai, with one of the most settled and deeply rooted Irula community areas in the Nilgiris. Not one adult remembered a single Irula nursery rhyme. It was the old women, not even the old men didn't care a damn. It is the old women who remembered. So we did recordings of something like 16 old songs, nursery rhymes, translated them parallel into Tamil and into English, and we put it into the school's curriculum. So there is this, it is just that you have to be seen to be able to talk a language that is acceptable, because you then will get jobs, then you'll get, you'll rise. I mean, if you talk in Irula, you won't get anywhere. So that is where the shame comes from. And it's all bent on survival. And we want, and it's through necessity I suppose, we want to forget where we've come from and become something else. Yeah,
but is that why? Sorry, because I know that in Bihar and also in Gujarat, you have the very strong, you have the institutions of the tribal languages and literature, right?
Yes.
Is that coming as a response to this loss of language?
Yes, and it's also coming because there is a tremendous loss of community memory. Yes, and then there's the whole question of empowerment, like that old tale where the son told the father. This is actually from one of the African countries. The son told the father, why is it in all the tales the man kills the lion? Why is it the lion always gets killed by the guy with his bow and arrow or spear? Father said, because it's the man who's writing the story. The day the man writes the story, the lion will be killing the man. So that's the crux of remembered history and written history. Now, I had one or two other things to show you, but there's no time. I have some books here.
Randhir, there is time.
Huh?
You have time.
You have time?
Yes, you have
Okay,
time. Yeah.
fine. Then I want you to listen to a particular recording that a lot of the influences of a lot of the singers and a lot of the traditional prayers of a lot of communities have been influencing me, and I have a small group, fellow with a guitar and a person with a flute, and in which where I chant my poems to be able to get through the essence of what I have gained from folk performers. So I want you to listen just to this one track. It's from a concert called Into the Blue Beyond. Just one track. It's in between, so you find me scratching my head, so ignore it, please. Yeah, there? Yeah.
We're looking at this? Are we looking at this?
Yes.
Is that your bag for
Is the sound there?
sound like that?
साउंड दिया है इसका
Sound
यहाँ
there?
से इसका भी चलेगा या फुल करो ऐसे या
Full yes.
Got to keep the mic.
Can you hear?
Can you pull louder?
Full.
आके दे हाँ Dinesh,
It will come.
it will go louder, yes.
Full. Okay. It's okay, fine. I think you
Yes,
put
but
it.
correct time, Mr. Dinesh. Sound? Huh? Just 1 second. Huh? Just hold on a second. Give us a second.
Yeah.
ये कर लो ना थोड़ा इसका थोड़ा Dinesh. Edgar, where's that? Just give us a second. I have a question, Randhir. You
Yeah.
you run you run an educational institution. So how has this experience with the tribals and people affected the way you now construct education for children?
Yes, actually.
Did you hear my question?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the question. Actually, I've begun to look at, say, there was a school I was very, very closely connected to, and I helped build again out of the rubble in Pune. And I introduced into the curriculum large portions of tribal law disguised as, eco issues or storytelling or whatever. And we found on the campus there's a very large chiku tree, old chiku tree. So we created stories around the chiku tree. Then we had a peepal tree, a very large peepal tree, which the branches had been cut by the trust in order for a building to be put up. So everybody watched the branches being cut off, and they were like large limbs being removed, and it's surprising how we got away with it, with the cantonment board under our noses. And we now have a people festival which is the beginning of the term, and we ask forgiveness for having cut off those branches, and we invite birds and other creatures to come and nest. We started this 3 years ago, and it's almost miraculous. I don't know why and how it happened. We've got 32 species of birds that visit the tree, that nest in the tree. We've got hornbills, orioles, green pigeons, sunbirds, you name it, they're all there. We have, and it's very, very closely related to nature. There have been several performances of my translated poems by the kids, and a lot of law they're searching for now. They're going back to their parents and their grandparents, and we're producing little booklets of the stories of grandparents' memories. So this whole business of storytelling, respect for nature has begun to come back. And apart from being the mentor of the institution, I'm not the director anymore. So what has happened is it's going on its own volition. I mean, now the principal is planning next year's calendar and says the people tree day is there. And so the calendar was shown to me. I said, wow, you still maintain this? They said, yes. So it's a question of when you bring it into education, there has to be in it some modicum of inspiration, something they can relate, something that connects to their immediate environment, and something that passes on a value, however small. And I think that's what our schools need. Those little, small little values, personalized values, relationships with the space within which you learn, which becomes important. Yeah, does it answer
Yes.
you?
Thank you.
The sound I think is out of sync with this.
Looks like that, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Nameless country,
That has to do with the video, I think.
people,
Now we'll start talking some double voices.
mutating every moment, merging, separating, becoming streets full of people, rain, snowfall, the greenness of wild fields, mountains and mist. I change with the seasons. This is not my life, I say. Looking at the full parts of my everydayness, I am not me. I am we.
Basically, the reason why I wanted you to listen to this, sorry, it got, I think in the sound and the thing,
Yeah, some
syncing.
sound out of sync is gone.
There's some sync
Huh.
problem. But basically it is that I've discovered through all my journeying and my experiencing that you lose a sense of I-ness after a point. And you gain a we-ness. And that's in essence what happened to me in all my search for my own identity with all of this mixed ancestry, etc. At the end of the day, I don't have that problem now. Questions still arise. I don't know whether it's age or whether it's learning, whether it's experience, but I owe a great deal to all the people in faraway places who had the patience to teach a restless soul like me. Thanks.
So you found your peace now?
Yes?
You found your peace now, right?
What is peace? I don't know. Tomorrow. Yes, yes. I mean, a lot of my questions are answered, but I
When you say
persist.
that I-ness has been replaced by
Yeah.
we-ness,
What does it mean?
means peace, right?
Maybe, maybe. I'm very scared to, make ultimate statements. Sort of, yeah. Not convinced, no?
I'm seeing it on your face. That's
Yeah,
more convincing.
yeah.
And so that the issue of the sentence getting concentration that you started with, Is that when you make them relate to the space, is it? Then they...
Yeah, I think the importance of space you occupy, I think I even tell my teachers, I said, you walk into the class and teach, the essence of good teaching is to be critically aware that you are in that moment and no other moment. You're in that space and no other
So
space.
what would you tell the children who are in a concrete space, removed from the greenery and all that,
You have your own spaces, you have your own room. Wherever you are, even if you're floating in the air. To be aware of where you are, I think is very important. Most of us aren't aware of where we
What
are.
can I tell my children, for example, to sort of remain concentrated in the space when they are there learning?
No, when you say remain concentrated in the space is to be aware that you're with other people, to be aware of where you are.
Oh, be aware.
Yeah, I said ultimately it is an awareness, don't you think so?
I think so, yeah.
It's also being able to be present.
Sorry?
I mean, it's also being able to be present. I mean, I think one of the things
Yeah, be
Yes.
present,
to be
yeah.
in the
And,
moment.
and good, it's just a question of education, teaching. A good teacher is present, always present. Can listen to words that are not even spoken. Can listen to questions that may arise but never arise. To preempt.
And that is to be happy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But you regularly take the workshops?
For a while I haven't taken workshops.
If we bring him, you'll send your children, no?
I'm asking you to recite.
I'm happy to take any workshop anywhere, yes.
Sir, can you recite that last poem you just... The poem was lovely.
Yeah,
If you don't mind.
I don't mind. Provided no one starts throwing books at me, I don't mind.
If there are books you want, it's okay. They just catch them.
Yes. Yes. It says, "This is not my life," I said, looking at the velvet pads of my palms, burnt with lines, each with the certainty of a river running east seawards. Inside me are drifting continents, nameless countries, people, languages, mutating every moment, merging, separating, becoming, streets full of people, rain, snowfall, the greenness of wild fields, mountains in mist. I change with the seasons. This is not my life, I said, looking at the cold parts of my everydayness. I am not me, I am we.
Love.
That I think is my learning from all my wanderings, and I am about to, I've just started a book which is called The Tribes of India. It's a very large work and it will probably take me a couple of years to finish. So that will be my next great journey.
Wow. We look forward to it.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, now there are some books here and you don't have to pay for them. Please don't take more than one book and you'll be unlucky if you don't manage to pick up a book. It's right here.